League of Legends is a multiplayer competitive session-based action RPG that is sort of considered the spiritual successor to the popular Warcraft 3 mod, Defense of the Ancients.
The journey here has been full of scary moments, especially like in the early days. Like there were moments when we had a team, when suddenly we're responsible for people's livelihoods, and like, are we gonna be able to sort of hit the next milestone so we can make payroll?
It's 2006, and a tiny company that had more chances of failing than not was formed under the name Riot Games. It's 2009, a game by the name of League of Legends is released to immediate success. It's 2013, a sold-out Staples Center is packed. 32 million people are watching and waiting to see what happens in the final game. It's 2019, Riot hosts their 10-year anniversary event. They announce a host of games, TV shows, music, documentaries, and comics. And Riot properties now have more users than Steam. So how did they go from this to this? In 2003, Kyle Sommer, who also went by the online name Eulogizing, had no idea he would be building the foundations of a digital empire. He wanted to create a game where you controlled a single, powerful hero. He wanted to create a game where you could level up abilities, skills, and equipment in an epic PvP battle. The end result being Defense of the Ancients, or Dota. This project did, however, later become defunct, and it swapped hands numerous times, eventually ending up under the name of Dota All-Stars and under the control of Steve Ginsu Feek. Dota's influence only grew from here, in both size and passion. It eventually required somewhere outside of the official Blizzard forums for the players to congregate, which ended up being a website created and managed by Steve Pendragon Meskin. These two names are going to become very important very soon. Two USC business buddies, Brandon Beck and Mark Merrill, were tinkering around with something too. They shared a love for video games and had always wanted to make a game studio together. The two alliteration bros spent a couple of years playing around with ideas before graduating and founding a company that went by the name of Riot Games. The first good move that they made in a long list of very good moves was to scoop up a few interns along with Steve Ginsu-Feek and Steve Pendragon Meskin. Whether through sheer dumb luck or impeccable planning, the two managed to time their entry into the market near perfectly. While Dota and its successors were still massively popular, the game was lagging behind the rest of the industry. By this point, other games were coming out with amazing graphics and systems that were much more modern for the time, whereas the Dota franchise was being run out of people's basements, and it was stuck in the aging Warcraft 3 engine, with no official support or capital from a corporation. Although the early stages of the League of Legends development cycle were shaky at best, going through multiple rebrands, and at one point even being scrapped and restarted altogether after half of their employees quit over creative differences, League of Legends proved its haters wrong, and it was an instant success. It quickly siphoned off a big chunk of the Dota community when the beta launched, and what helped, especially in the early days, was that Riot had an incredibly community-focused approach to game development, taking what their players were saying into account. It also lacked a story or a campaign mode, giving the developers more time to focus on the multiplayer PvP mechanics that their players loved. The fact that it was free to play, which at the time was innovative at best and odd at worst, didn't hurt either. It made the game untouchable to producers, but it was amazing for the players. Money started flowing in despite the game not having a box price. People wanted to connect with their character they were playing, and they wanted to be able to better express themselves on the Rift, so they started buying skins. This is when development really started to take off. Streamers started popping up out of nowhere. League of Legends didn't start the age of streamers. To be fair, that title belongs to World of Warcraft, but it definitely took it over. Riot realized very early on the importance of keeping streamers happy. They had a lot of programs dedicated to supporting streamers, both big and small. They treated them with respect and dignity for the most part, and helped compensate and support them fairly. Suddenly, it was no longer unfeasible to live your life playing the game that you love. Lots of these people were making a lot of money, living a lifestyle a lot of people can only dream of. They were traveling and had just so much free time to do what they loved, all while playing a video game to fund this. Most, if not all, other game companies, in my opinion, failed in this approach. And, in my opinion, this was a huge bullet point in why League ended up being so successful. The Dota community always attracted those with a competitive spirit. and League was no exception. Rife with trash talk and tournaments, the players wanted to fight for the right to say they were the best. This was long before the time of rockstar streamers and pro players living lavish lifestyles, and the tournaments were built more around a group of friends putting together a team and competing independently. It was a really cool system for its time in the sense that you could make money from playing a video game, but it was completely horrible for job security. I mean, if your team disbanded, or if you just happened to not win a tournament, you would be completely out of pocket and literally make $0 for all of your effort and time. As viewership increased domestically and internationally, more money started flowing into the scene though. Organizations formed under the comfy money blanket of sponsors, and League ushered in the era of esports. Riot saw this massive upwards trajectory as an opportunity. Their game was getting massive amounts of support and breaking records within the growing gaming community. Esports were getting them some mainstream attention, and it just seemed like the game couldn't be stopped. This wasn't enough though. At this point, their game was well known enough that people all over college campuses were sporting the Teemo hats, and people knew the name League of Legends. Game companies for a while now had been trying to make the move to traditional media, generally movies, with little to no success. Riot did have aspirations to do this as well, but they also opted to go another route altogether. They started making music. Whether atmospheric music targeted at those who loved the lore, or collaborations with well-known bands to hype up their esports, or even songs with no real connection to the gaming world, but with massive amounts of pop appeal, they had been releasing songs to a very meh applause for some time now. But what really kicked it into gear was Warriors, performed by the Imagine Dragons for the 2014 World Championships. Having a big name band, especially the band coming off of the heels of Radioactive, make a song that absolutely slapped and perform it live for one of the biggest gaming events of its time felt like an almost surreal moment for a lot of League fans. It truly felt like a gateway, a stepping stone. It felt like League was going places. It was amazing. Over the next few years, they started pumping music. I think that their expansion into music was overall a risk. A well-calculated and a very good risk at the end of the day, but a risk nonetheless. There's absolutely in a world where their songs weren't very good, and Riot ended up with the dreaded cringe badge. But their songs were good, and music as a universal medium had the ability to trigger emotions and tell a story that pushed their brand even further. These days, a lot of people have heard of KDA, or even songs like Warriors and Legends Never Die, even if they have never heard of League of Legends as a game. I mean, some of the Riot Games music has literally topped charts. It told stories, and it gave the greater community something to actually connect to in a meaningful way. I really do gotta give Riot props for this move. Those who managed this program really knocked it out of the park in terms of sourcing talent, handling social media, animating the music videos, creating the album art, and producing the songs. As of today, the company's launched its own record label. Going by the name of Riot Games Music, or RGM, it's highly non-traditional. They plan to continue building on the foundation laid by the company's earlier productions, and they seem to want to make it a full branch of their venture into various outlets of traditional media. But before they could really make that push into becoming a household name, there was a major obstacle still in the way.
Riot Games and its CEO are being sued for workplace harassment and gender discrimination. The recently filed complaint caps off a years-long investigation into an allegedly toxic workplace. The gaming giant has been sued for both of these things before, as well as allegedly firing women who've decided to speak.
In August 2018, Kotaku published an expose on the culture of sexism at Riot. This article included everything from sexual harassment to hiring and promotion that discrimination based on gender, and general toxicity. The company had long been known for having a frat boy culture, where if you worked there, it wasn't unlikely you'd end up getting farted on, or being groped even. But this Kotaku article really pushed a lot of the internal company issues into the limelight. Both current and former employees at Riot took to Twitter after this article, corroborating it, and it was followed by a statement by Riot Games at the end of the month claiming they would work to address cultural problems, all while avoiding the word sexism. They plan to expand their diversity and inclusion branch, establish third-party evaluations, and improve the investigative processes and systems surrounding these issues. What followed was not something that Riot had wanted or accounted for. In November of 2018, a class action lawsuit was filed against the company by two current and former employees respectively. The accusations included sexual harassment, gender discrimination, paying women less than men for doing the same job, promoting similarly qualified or less qualified men to positions that women were passed over for, and they also claimed that the company was overall responsible for creating, encouraging, and maintaining an environment that exposes its female employees to discrimination, harassment, and retaliation based on their gender or sex. Not good things. Riot's response was to place the COO Scott Gelb on leave, as he was one of the primary perpetrators of a lot of these actions. They also updated their company values page to reflect their aspirations to get away from toxic bro culture and hired a new diversity chief. Big whoop. It didn't solve their problems. Later in 2019, California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing revealed their investigation into Riot for further discrimination. What followed was a complete shitstorm of accusations, claims, court cases, articles, news stories, and promises from the company to do better. It is arguable whether they actually started to do better at the grand level, or if they just shot out a bunch of empty promises and tightened up their ship a little bit. But from a business standpoint, they did manage to mitigate a lot of the damage that could have come from these years-long legal battles. I think a large part the company managed to wriggle their way out of public scrutiny simply by coming up with new releases and announcements, refocusing the community's energy into hype for new games, while simultaneously not pushing the issue into the limelight further by releasing too many statements. Some allegations happened, Riot stayed mostly silent and KDA came out. More allegations dropped, and Valorant was announced. There is an argument whether Riot ever truly and truthfully opened up and owned up to their own mistakes, or whether they ever truly made an internal change, or whether they just band-aid fixed the problem. But from their perspective, they did manage to get out of the public eye, which was a good thing for Riot. In October 2019, Riot disrupted the industry. They held a massive event to celebrate the 10th birthday of League of Legends, and throughout a 40-minute livestream they announced an absolutely crazy amount of products and projects. Some of the things announced included League of Legends Mobile, Teamfight Tactics Mobile, Legends of Runeterra, LoL Esports Manager, Valorant, a board game called Tellstones, an unnamed fighting game, an unnamed ARPG, new champions and preseason content for League of Legends, the TV series Arcane, a new documentary, new comic books in collaboration with Marvel, new music, and an encyclopedia. The craziest part is they actually followed through. I think Riot understands and accepts that League of Legends probably won't be around forever. Lives cycle and games die. It's the nature of the industry. This company wanted to last. They understood that to create a project with longevity, they needed to create a multitude of products. In their perfect world, you could go play a game of League of Legends, get tilted off of it, go play a game of Valorant, before logging out for the night and watching some Arcane before bed, and then wake up in the morning to your alarm set to a KDA song. In short, they wanted to create an ecosystem. Their first major product hurdle in this ecosystem was Valorant, and oh boy did that cow produce some milk. Valorant was launched to immediate major success. Lots of people to this day hate it, and to many it has a reputation of a bad CSGO. Whichever side of that coin you're on, you can't deny though that it has carved out its own little niche and it's making a wagon full of money. The beta launch broke Twitch records. Streamers immediately flocked to the game, some never leaving. I mean, there were tournaments and a plan for esports almost immediately upon release. The game thrived and continues to thrive, with big plans for the future.
Where are we? I got a feeling we're not in Brooklyn no more.
They're brothers. They're plumbers.
Oh no! Mario! Luigi!
They're on the trail of a kidnapped princess and a mystical meteorite.
It's incredible!
That gives anyone who possesses...
In the last 50 to 60-ish years video games have existed, Hollywood has spent at least 40 of them trying to figure out how to milk them. Some TV shows and movies have worked, but for every step the film industry took forward, it seemed to take two back. From the Super Mario Bros. Movie, to Tomb Raider, to Warcraft, we've seen a string of movies and television that many consider ridiculous, boring, or both. But in the last little while that's been starting to change. The Witcher was good, we had the new Resident Evil, but we really needed to shake things up. In my opinion, Arcane was the proverbial nail in the coffin for Riot's expansion plans. They had expanded into other genres, and outside of games in the form of music. But I think that this TV show is what solidified their venture into the true mainstream. They didn't just test the waters, they cannonballed in. The show had a 96% rating from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes, and 100% from critics. IMDb had an average rating of 9.1 out of 10 from over 150,000 votes, and 90% of the people like the show on Google reviews, giving it a 4.9 out of 5-star rating. The fantasy steampunk world also did a good job of balancing new people who knew absolutely nothing about League of Legends with the holy crap moments for decade-long fans. It set the record as Netflix's highest rated series within a week of its premiere, and it ranked first on Netflix's top 10 charts in 52 different countries. They held massive in-game events across all of their properties for the release of Arcane, where you could get Arcane-themed exclusive skins and content. And they even brought back Imagine Dragons, the band that kicked off their music branch. By the way, how good is Enemy? The livestream of the in-person premiere event on Twitch skyrocketed the entire category up to 1.5 million concurrent views, and it even allowed content creators to stream the first few episodes to their viewers on Twitch. Riot has always been amazing at using streamers to hype their products. It wasn't just a series premiere, it was an entire multi-day virtual and live event. It worked in spades. It was a crazy amount of fun, it brought a ton of light to the series, and a ton of new people into the League of Legends fold. Even if you didn't like the show, there is no possible conceivable argument that Arcane failed. What this means for the future of the Riot cinematic universe is yet to be seen, but if they can consistently recreate the hype and quality of Arcane, their plans to create an IP that defines a generation are just one step closer to being fulfilled. Like them or not, Riot has come a long way from being the hole-in-the-wall company making a free game that no producers wanted to touch with a 10-foot pole. The small indie game overcame every obstacle in its way, and the company as well so far have grown to the point that they have not only shed their image as a single game company, they are beginning to shed their image as a gaming company altogether. From where I'm standing, I think the future of Riot is bright. They have an unparalleled ability to create massive hype around new releases and ship them so polished they shine. The company only seems to be continuing to pick up speed as time goes by, and I, for one, can't wait to see what comes next in Riot's world.